My name's Sarah Longdon. I'm BD Director at Quadrant Chambers and a member of the PM Forum London Committee.
The toys, honestly, are a really, really small part of it. They can add that like extra level of sort of polish and production sheen. But like, you can spend the most enormous budget on lighting equipment and you will never beat the sun. So if you're trying to do things on a really low budget, make sure that you're using the sun. If you've got areas in your office, in your environment you have access to, that you have really lovely quality of light in, use them, because the alternative is, much more complicated, much more expensive.
Yeah, so I've got a recent example. We do this Embracing the Spotlight series as part of sort of diversity that we have here in the firm as well. We've got this Embrace network, and I was filming with one associate, Anish, and we're doing this Embrace video. We realized halfway through the video, we're filming it at like 5 o'clock on a Thursday, like just before, Friday as well, which is obviously like a quieter day. And we realized like we were rushing it and he was sort of like tripping up on his words and it wasn't getting there. So I was like, okay, let's skip to the next question. And by that point, you're still thinking about how you looked on the last one. And he's actually media trained and done a lot of videos himself.
Asking people to stop swiping through family holiday photos, videos of a dog doing a funny dance, all this other stuff that, is pulling their attention one way or another. And if they hit in the middle of all of that a 45-minute audio file, you got a very hard sell on your hands. But a 45-minute audio file is perfect for listening to in the car on your commute or when you're out on a run. So the fact that it's not performing that well on a social media channel doesn't mean that it doesn't have value as an audio thing as well. It just means that it's possibly not the right format for delivering that kind of information to that person in that moment.
Yeah, I am a sucker for a dancing dog, though. You are right. It's quite hard to get my attention around that. Has the increased attention on accessibility complicated things for videos and animators when it comes to keeping dynamic looking visuals, having to produce captions on long video content, etc.? Any tips on balancing this and pleasing everyone? And actually, I'm really interested in that question because I totally get that having accessibility and having captions on screen, but especially when you're looking at legal topics or complicated topics, it's very difficult for that to come out correctly, and there's an awful lot of work on corrections. So I want to know if I'm missing a trick and if you've got any tips for me on that too. So what are your views, John?
I think accessibility is something that I'm seeing people asking for of their own volition increasingly. I think there is a big interest in it. I like to think that is genuine and not just that someone else did it and it's being copied. But it does introduce another element that you have to balance with all the other information. So, if you're asking people to watch a video that's moving, listen to the audio, and then read text on top of it, you're potentially presenting the same information in 3 different ways, and it's just going to almost overwhelm people to the point where they consume and sort of internalize none of it. I think make sure that you're using a format of things like subtitles that can be toggled on and off, so that people who need them can enable them, and people who don't can leave them off. You should be working with people who know what an SRT file is, which is then something that when you upload your video, you upload an SRT file, which is essentially the subtitles with some timings. And that's where you'll see, like on YouTube, where you have a captions button that you can enable them, and you can enable them even in different languages and everything.